All right, we're here with Andy O'Reilly, and so glad you could make it over here.
Thanks for having me.
To my little basement studio.
I love it. Everybody needs one of these. All of us old broadcasters need our own little studio somewhere.
That's right.
It's like the guy that likes to work on wood. You know, you're going to have a corner somewhere where you can do what you do, even if nobody watches it. You're going to have it in your house.
That's right. You got to have it.
The greatest thing.
But yeah, and you got to make sure grandkids don't touch anything. But anyway, so how did you get started in radio? We're talking about radio.
Yeah,
you're a legend in radio. You got started probably in Grand Rapids first, didn't you?
Actually, I think I started in radio in Sparta. I was about 7 years old, and I went over to a neighbor's garage sale, and I saw this album, and they, it was 1977, and used records were $1 back then, right?
Yeah.
And there were these guys on the front of this record, and their faces were all painted up, and there was smoke and fire everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but I have to have that. And it was Kiss Alive 1. Yeah. And I went over to I ran back to the house, and I told my mom, I said, I need $1. I have to have this because you got to see these guys. She didn't know who I was talking about, but she made me rake the garden to get $1. She gave me the $1. I got the record, and I came home with this Kiss album, and right there it started. I played records in the basement. I played, I would talk up the up ramps. I had Andy radio going. The first record I got before that was Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers. So it was really early that I knew I had an affinity toward music. I wanted to be a musician, but I couldn't play an instrument to save my life. I really struggled with any kind of instrument, from piano to guitar to saxophone to you name it. I couldn't figure it out. And as I grew, I kept that affinity toward music. And by the time I was about 15, I knew I needed to take it out and get it on the road. So I started DJing dances at school, church things, stuff like that. My dad would actually have to drive me down to get the music, to rent the equipment in the van to go play these things. And back then it was milk carts full of records and cassettes and CD. We didn't have CDs yet, right? So I'm lugging all this garbage around everywhere, and that's kind of where I started to DJ. Got into high school, still had the bug. I hurt my neck playing football, so I went and lied about my age and got a job as a bouncer at a place called Top of the Rock, and that's where I really saw what DJs could do. I was watching these DJs at Top of the Rock command these audiences, these dance crowds, right, with what they were up there playing and what they were up there doing, and I'm like, that's when the drug really hit. Right. So I got a little taste of it there, and then from school, when I graduated, about 5 months after I graduated, I got an internship in Grand Rapids at KLQ, and I wasn't going to leave, period. I ended up working till they gave me a job for $6 an hour. 1 year, almost to the day that I graduated, was my first night on the air.
I think people really think that DJs get some big bucks when they get on.
No, it was KLQ. It was $6 an hour to start. Yeah. I remember the first night. I had practiced for months in the production studio, trying to sound like I was going to be on the air. The first night I went on, it was weird because it kind of tied both my worlds together. I had went back to my high school and DJ'd their prom at Grand Haven. They had it in Grand Haven. Loaded up the car, went back to the radio station. Sunday morning, 3 a.m., I got my first hour on the air. And the guy left the studio. I was on, and after months and months of practice, I pushed that on button on the microphone for the first time, and I blacked out. I freaked out. The first song I ever introduced was It Must Have Been Love by Roxette. I screwed that up. And then when I got done talking, instead of shutting the mic off, I shut the song off. And I managed not to swear or do anything bad or anything like that, but I made it through my first hour, and that was 1989. That's when that started.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then so you moved from there to...
I went from that $6 an hour kid at KLQ to the assistant program director there. Okay. I was very, very fortunate in the fact that most radio people spend half their career bouncing from town to town all over the country. I had some of the most incredible mentors and people that genuinely looked out for me behind the scenes. From Lynn Ike, who gave me my internship and put up with me when I was so young and so eager and so in your face to get something. I would work day and night. I remember sleeping on the floor. I remember eating leftovers after remotes. I remember taking it from the other jocks who were older and saltier and all this other kind of stuff. But as I grew and they watched the desire for me to do what I was going to do, they all kind of realized that they had somebody here that was interested, and they needed to nurse me along. So instead of taking that path where you go from town to town, I went up through the ranks at one radio station. So I think I went from $6 an hour to $13 an hour to after about 3 or 4 years, I got a full-time job at $16,000. And then from there, I started working my way up. Great names. People like Dave Wellington, who taught me how the mechanics of building a radio station work, how to build a format, what a radio station clock looks like. Air talent like Rick Beckett, who face to face he was very callous. He was very hard. He was very what's the word I want to look for? He was an old dog, and he had no problem making sure that you understood that this was not a very easy business, and you weren't going to get a cushion with him. But on the other side of Rick too, when Rick knew I wasn't home, or maybe my parents were wondering if their idiot was getting this right, Rick would actually call my parents' house and tell them not to worry because Andy's getting this right, and we're making sure he's on the right path. Okay. So I had great tutors, great mentors, and I got to throw a shout in to Mike Tinnis too, who was really the one that watched me grow in step, and then Mike finally just cut the cord. He said, "Go do your thing," and he just cut me loose and let me become me.
Now, yeah, I got to tell you, Boatman, when I talked to him, I did interview Chris.
Yeah.
And he of course, he loves you.
Yeah, I love him back.
And he talked about the one time when you guys were introducing a band.
Yeah.
He said that he was just idolized by you, and he thought, man, why am I up here interviewing this band when, you're the star of the show?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I felt the same way. And this kind of plays into more of the story about, when things run out, right? All my adult life, I had only known KLQ. That was the only job I had as a grown-up. We had gone through some program directors. We had gone through a big morning show change. We had had some remarkably hard times at that radio station. They came to me one day and they said, well, actually, it started off, they sent me on a trip to Canada with 3 busloads of listeners on a ski trip, right?
Yeah.
I came back from that ski trip, came into work on Monday, and there wasn't even a piece of letterhead left with the old logo on it. And it was explained to me that we were doing a format change. I had come to mean everything to this radio station, and everything had to change. I mean, it took me till I was 26 to get my own first apartment, and now I'm going to lose that because I'm out of a job. So, I'm building what I built and all this other kind of stuff. Now I'm out on the tiles. I'd always known Boat. I've always been a fan. I've always known that he was this mythical character in Muskegon that people either loved or hated. Yeah. And, as far as a radio personality goes, that's a great skill set because a polarizing character is a lightning rod, right? I always thought the world of the guy. And they called me and they said, hey, what would you think about being, mornings in Muskegon? I said, that'd be great, but what about Boatman? They said, we're going to get rid of him. And I said, and I'm not taking the job. Yeah. So going back to the concert thing that you bring up, it was Cinderella at the L.C. Walker Arena. And I remember Boat and I are standing back there, and there's still a picture of us. Boat gets up and starts the stage introduction from the MRR point of view, and I was still on at KLQ at the time. And he went on and on about me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, really? I'm standing behind him, and I got my hands in my pockets, and I'm like listening to him go on and on. And I'm like, talk about the band, man. Talk about yourself. And Bo goes on and on and on about me. So, you know, I knew we were friends, and I knew that. And then coming to Muskegon, too, when they made me that offer to come to Muskegon, it's like, hey, look, you know, he's a great guy. He's a great friend. I'm not going to take his job. B, there's a lot more that's going to have to happen in Muskegon than just replacing one person on the air, because at MRR at that time, if you look back in history over the radio thing, MRR was all fed in by a satellite other than Boat and a couple hours with Bill in the afternoon.
Right.
To me, it was kind of it was there. It was like wallpaper, though. People weren't engaged. People weren't part of a radio station should be part of the fabric of a community. You should have a character like Boatman on there that's polarizing. You should have Bill on there who's kind of like a voice of reason. And to bring me into the middle of that was great. The first year that I was there, I remember it because I'd be facing out the back of that building by the Getty, and the phone would ring, and, hi, MRR. Kiss my ass, you're not the Boatman. And I'm like, wait, he's just on in the afternoon. Tune in between 2 and 6. You'll love it. He's great. He's even awake at that time when I'm not right now, you know?
Yeah.
So what we had to do when I came to Muskegon was take a signal and give it a rebirth. Because, you know, when MRR first came on, I was in Grand Rapids, and we were in a panic. You know, we were like trying to tune it in our office up on the 10th floor of that building. Are we going to have all this competition from this new station in Muskegon? Because, you know, when MRR came on, Sonny was still kind of a big deal in Muskegon.
Yeah.
And it penetrated into Grand Rapids pretty hard, too.
Right.
So we were on the defensive about, are we going to have another signal coming into Grand Rapids that's going to be a heartache for us? And, you know, MRR's signal doesn't get into Grand Rapids quite good enough. So it really never became that much of an issue competitively, but always respected, always worked well with them. We'd see him at the Corley Run. We'd see him in other promotions and things like that. We always stayed friends. And I think that's one of the things about radio that people, you know, you see the competition out front, but behind the scenes, you know, we're all kind of doing the same thing, and that competition's healthy, but it's also respectable. You know, these guys are working hard too. Just because they're across the street doesn't make them bad.
Yeah. Plus, you never know if you're going to be working there next week.
Exactly. Yeah. So you gotta keep friends, but you also have to keep competitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned another guy, Bill Marshall. You've known him for a long time. Now, did you start at the Getty?
I did.
MRR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first got there were just Bill, Boatman, Britta, Don Bino, and myself. We were the five people.
I forgot about Bino.
Yeah, we were the 5 people that were left in that building over by the drive-in.
Okay.
I had actually interviewed there when I was a kid. Haas Montana had me out to interview me at Sunny FM. And
I remember Haas.
Yeah, I was going to take that job, but it was $1 less an hour. And I couldn't even afford to drive to Muskegon with the car I had at the time to make that change. I could have been on Sunny FM, but it just wasn't going to happen. So I couldn't take that job. But to come in and work in that building and have that experience by the drive-in, that was pretty cool. And just have 5 people working in there too. It's pretty amazing.
Plus the all the history behind that building with TRU and everything else.
And that predated me. Yeah, long before. So I don't even really know the TRU history. I know it's there, and I know how big it was at one point. But you know, in Sparta, we didn't spend a lot of time listening to TRU. I remember WQ was the big one from that we would tune in. My dad would tune into in Sparta.
Right. Now, Bill Marshall, you've been friends with him for quite a while too, right?
Great guy. Love Bill. He really do. He's Bill he's even keel. I like Bill for his dry sense of humor. I like Bill for his and I got to tell you a story about Bill. When I first came to town, Cheap Trick came to play Summer Celebration, and I've never told this publicly before, so this is fun. We were setting up all our radio stuff for the thing, and Cheap Trick comes in their shuttle van, and Rick Nielsen is in the passenger seat, right? The guitar player from Cheap Trick. And Rick Nielsen said, "Hi." And Bill looks over at me and he says, "Did he just say hi, Andy?" And I looked at Bill and I went, "Yeah." So I let that little white lie slide for a few years. I let him think Rick Nielsen knew me.
Yeah. Bill and I go back when he was with the Oldies.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Your name, is it your real name?
Yeah,
Andy
it is
O'Reilly?
now. I lived at home.
Okay.
It is now, yeah.
Okay.
I lived at home when I first started. My mom had the idea in her head that people, if I used the family name on the radio, that people would be looking it up in the phone book and calling the house at all hours of the night and all this kind of crap. Well, I picked a name. I picked O'Reilly just one step off her maiden name, which is O'Hara.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted something Irish and I wanted something that. And as time went on,
Your mom isn't Maureen O'Hara or anything?
No, nothing like that. No, her Kathy O'Hara.
Okay.
But as time went on, it just got easier to amend it to be what it is now. So yeah, it's never been really a big secret. I mean, when you grow up in West Michigan and you write checks and it's never been a big secret. But that's where it came from. You're not going to call yourself the family name because I don't want the phone ringing off the hook all the time. And then there was a movie way back when called April Fool's Day, old slasher movie, stupid thing. And the guy that played Biff in Back to the Future was in this. And he was screwing around in front of a video camera at the time. And he goes, "Hi, Mary O'Reilly O'Toole O'Shea." And that's where O'Reilly came from. Okay. Not much more to it. Huh. I wish I had a better story.
What favorite station that you work for? Favorite stations that you work for?
There's been two. I mean, three. Well, three.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. 4. KLQ. That I walked in off the street. I knew nothing other than that. I went from a kid that was an intern handing out stickers after concerts to I had the plane tickets bought to go sign the paperwork to be syndicated. And that doesn't happen to just anybody. I mean, that doesn't happen to anybody. So KLQ will always hold a very, very special spot in my heart. I spent one summer on LAV, which was fine. It was just there. MRR, when I came out to 101.7 in Muskegon, that to me was the chance to really rewrite what radio could be in Muskegon. We had everything fed in from ABC satellite radio. I said, what if we built our own format? What if it was close to this? What if we upped it a little bit? What if we engaged the community a little bit more? What if we, and we did it with little or nothing. We had to do it by tying into things that were already there, like the Corley Run was a big thing for us. We don't have the budget or the ways to get these things done. But if we spend all year collecting autograph things and auction them off for the Corley Run,
right,
now we've got a little bit more, it gives us a little bit more presence. So we found ways to engage and be a part of these other events and tie us into the community more and become part of that fiber that I said was so important. 101.7 to me was my chance to be a part of a community I always loved because I just grew up in Sparta. And when I was a kid, there was nothing going on in Grand Rapids. We came to Muskegon or Kalamazoo for everything because that's where the arenas were, Right. Grand Rapids now, great, love it, it's awesome. Everybody has a great time. The arena's there, they've really. But when I worked in Grand Rapids, you could have shot a cannon off and not hit anybody. Yeah. So, those two surrounding markets were where we were for everything. Muskegon, even though when I first got here, the downtown mall was just coming down, we had a chance to start to re-engage things and be a part of the community better. And that's what I will always remember about MRR and how we were able to do that. And we did it well. There was me, Bill Boat, CJ, the sales gal, and the other people, the sales staff and things like that. Yeah. But they all bought into what was going to happen and what did. So that was a big deal. And now, Muskegon Channel Radio that we've built. It's all online. It's all on an app. It's a classic rock, classic hits hybrid type thing. It's very difficult to get people to change habits. I thought that would be the easiest part of what we've done with rebuilding what we have through the Muskegon Channel, but it's tooth and nail. It's a fight to get people to say, all right, I'm used to FM, but there's this other option. If I just listen through my phone, it's bloody knuckles every day. But it's equally dear to me, and to know that I've got Britta there on that with me is a big deal. To know that it's local to me is a big deal, and to know that we reach farther than any transmitter that we've got left in town here is also a big deal, because now we really got a global reach with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you speak of Britta. Now, you knew Britta from what? The MRR, and she was at Sunny FM? Is that? Got
to know Britta back when we were both about 19, 20 years old.
Yeah. She was young when she started, like you.
Yeah, we were both kids. We knew each other a little bit when we were young. We didn't spend a whole lot of time together. We really got to know each other when we worked at MRR and Star 108 by the drive-in together. I'd get off the air. She was just going on the air. She was in the process of having her kids. It was awesome because there was just the five of us in that building. Hey, can you read this one a book? Can you play with this one for a few minutes? Can you play? Yeah, I can do that. So, I never had kids of my own, and
did they call you Uncle Andy?
No, it was never like that. They were so little,
Yeah.
But it was always, they were just, what a unique opportunity to be able to share that part of life with somebody, because with just the five of us there, she didn't need daycare. She just put them around the corner in a different room, and there's their naps and all that, and it was great. So I'd pick them up and read to them, or play with them, or whatever, and it just had our own little 5-person clique there. It was great.
Now, who else have you? Now, see, we got to talk a little bit about Dave. Now, you and Dave.
Cackley?
Yeah. Used to have quite the routine back and forth.
Still do.
It was the Bob and Tom show kind of.
I mean it's a banter. It's a daily banter. It's a back and forth. We do it now on the Muskegon Channel via video as opposed to the hourly type thing on the radio. We do it once a day now. Dave came along after. I think he was actually the third or fourth partner I had. As we brought news into the mornings at MRR. Dick McKay was one that I had. Dick was a Grand Rapids legend. Then I had a couple other guys, and it's terrible, I don't remember their name. But Rod Cackley. Rod was there. No relation. They didn't even spell it the same way. Yeah. But then Rod got put in a position where he was writing for a paper and doing what we were doing on the rock radio station. Doing what we were doing on the rock radio station at the same time. Yeah. And the paper said, you know what, you guys push it kind of hard on the radio sometimes. Take your pick. So Rod actually picked the paper over the radio, and that's when Dave Cackley came in with Metro Networks, and it's probably been, I don't even dare guess, 15 years. It's been a long time that we've been at it together.
Now, is he still doing 13 too? Or?
Yeah, he's doing 13 too. He works for a company called Metro Networks. Right. So they farm him out to 13 and other TV and whatever he does. He does traffic updates for multiple stations around the state.
I always like to see him when he goes out to eat too.
Yeah. Well, that's all been shut down for a while. Nobody's been doing much with the whole quarantine thing going on. So, but Dave and I are as close to brothers as you can get. I should say step brothers. We have our moments where I want to kill him and he wants to kill me. But I think
which always makes a good team.
That's part of it. Yeah. It's been great. And even the days I dread that I know I'm going to get on and deal with him, it's still better than going out and actually working for a living, because people, and it comes back to my theory of why I do what I do. I had a job when I was a kid. I walked around a square all night, and I put hair care products in a box. And I listened to this guy on the radio, and I won't give his name out because he's still alive. All he ever said was what the temperature was and what time it was.
Yeah.
And I'm working, 6 to 11 or whatever it was, putting hair care supplies in this box. And every time I walk past that radio,
I got to stop you though. Did you have hair when you were doing the hair care stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just check.
I had an ugly mullet. It was terrible. All he ever said was what time it was and how hot it was. And here I am in this warehouse doing something I absolutely hated,
Right.
Because I had to. That was my job, right? And I thought every time I heard him turn that mic on, I thought, you son of a bitch, you're making my life worse by doing what you're doing. And every day that I went into radio, and still do, that's what's in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Somebody out there is doing what they have to do to get by. It's my job to give them a momentary pause in their day. It's that mental break, even if it's a Facebook post or something I said on the radio or something we did with a video on the Muskegon channel now. That's been my only goal for a little over 30 years now, is to find a way to give somebody that break that they need in their mind.
Yeah. Speaking of break, do you have other people working with you now too, or?
Yeah, we.
I heard that Lynn Grant might be working with you now.
Lynn had done some voice work for us in the past.
Right.
When I started off to start doing my own thing, I started doing radio voiceover work in my studio at home.
Right.
I put an ad on eBay saying we could do voice work. Right. It was $2.10 to list an ad on eBay for radio voice work, which turned into the first year a little over $35,000 that I made from that.
Wow.
I picked up a market in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, which was a hub for about 5 other cities around it. There was one point that every voice you heard on that radio station, on that group of radio stations, came out of Muskegon, because they were like we were at MRR. They had the satellite-fed music in. They had a sales staff. They had one air talent that would do the local weathers and stuff like that. I don't necessarily agree with that model for a local community, but that's what they were doing. And we were putting out over 300 spots a month for that radio chain from my basement in Roosevelt Park. And we visited there a couple times. And when you fly into Vegas, you drive down to Havasu, you come out of the mountains down there into the gully where Havasu is, and all you heard were Muskegon voices.
Wow.
Lynn, Britta, Brian, me, Bill, everybody. It was all you heard was Muskegon voices.
Huh.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So what happened to that, though? I mean,
Well, that guy out there ran for Congress. He mortgaged all of his radio stations on the campaign, and he lost.
Yeah.
He dropped all of his outside vendors, including us, and they've found another vendor since. And I mean, this is
it was
10 years ago or so. Yeah, it was quite a while ago. Yeah.
But I was just curious. I've never heard that you could list it on eBay before.
Yeah, we did. I just put a little ad out there that said telephone voiceovers, voicemail greetings, radio commercials, and all that. And they found us through that. And there was a point where we were doing 300 plus a month.
Wow.
For that radio group out there. And then Comcast came along, and we did the real estate channel. We did their voice work for the real estate channel, and that was a thing. That was easy money. I mean, I could click off 90 or 100 of those things in an afternoon for $10 a shot.
Well, I've got a video that I did with I can't remember his name now, but it was on the special needs kids that went.
No More Sidelines.
No More Sidelines.
Yeah.
You did the voice work for that.
Yeah.
So recognized it right away.
Yeah. It's been cool. I would still love to do more voice work in my basement. I think that's fun. It's engaging and it's cool.
Easy.
I teach it now too.
Yeah.
We've got a young guy that he's with No More Sidelines. That's where I got to know him. He's an actor, and Pioneer Resources came to me and they said, he wants to act and he wants to turn this into something he can make a living off of. Can you teach him how to be a voiceover artist? I said, yes, I can. So now not only is he doing some of that himself, he's our announcer for our shows on the Muskegon channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's part of the gig is, you remember I told you about my early days and the people that really looked out for me.
Yeah.
I got to pass that along too.
Well, yeah.
There's got to be others that you look out for.
Now you've shared some of your favorite stories. Do you have anything else you think that pops into your head that you gotta get out?
The syndication thing was a close call. Everything was lined up. I did this show back in the day, if you will, called the Out of Control Saturday Night. And if people understand how radio ratings work, you do a little bit.
Yeah.
You know the numbers.
Yeah.
And I'll just ask you for the viewer out there, what would you say is an exceptional number in radio ratings?
An exceptional number?
Yeah, if a radio ratings thing came back and it had a number in it, and you saw that number, you'd go, wow.
Oh, wow. Let's see.
A share point. Look at
a 25 share would be great.
25 shares, great?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did my show on Saturday nights from 10 till 2. Men 18 to 24, I had a 63 share.
Yeah.
Men 18 to 34, it was still upwards of around 40. Men 18 to 54, it was still in the mid to upper 30s. It was big.
Yeah.
I was getting flown all over the country to help break bands. I was getting, record credits. Hey, thanks to Andy O'Reilly for playing this. I mean, it was nuts. It was, and this was still when radio got its perks, right? So, hey, you want to come to Los Angeles this weekend? Sure. Tickets will be waiting for you. And off you went. And it was crazy. Premier Radio Networks had it all lined up to go. All I had to do was fly out, sign the papers with this lady named Joan Barnowski. They called her and they told her that they just canceled 5 shows and we're going to have no new ones added. Huh. And that was that. That would have been a national satellite-driven show every Saturday night.
And that's the show that Boatman was nuts about.
Oh, everybody was nuts about it. That was so much fun. It was, and I went into that show every week with one song in mind, and the listeners picked it out from there. It had a theme. It had an idea behind it that it was going to be hard and heavy.
Yeah.
I never ever did anything other than pick out the first song, and the listeners dictated it.
Really?
It was mayhem. It was just the phones lit up at about 10 to 10, and they did not quit until after I walked out the door.
Yeah.
Just nuts.
Yeah.
My wife's kids used to listen. I had no idea.
Yeah.
They're up in Hesperia trying to pick up KOQ from Grand Rapids to pull it in. And they told me, Cindy and I never came along to each other until much later in life. And the kids are like, they heard Rob Zombie was coming. And I'm like, well, yeah, we can go see that. Oh, we used to listen to you all the time. And I'm like, huh? You guys were listening to me? What?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's a cool thing to have, though, to have that.
Yeah. It was big. And I take a little credit for it, but it really comes down to the listeners because they dictated that show and they made it what it was. They bought the records. The bands came to town that we played on that show and they sold out the shows.
Yeah.
I remember being in Los Angeles at a conference and they have trade magazines, right? And there was one girl that they had in these trade magazines named Peg Pollard. And she was on everything. Every record had something that Peg Pollard had to say about it. And we're standing around in this circle in Los Angeles, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, oh, my God, that's Peg Pollard. And come to find out, they're like, hey, Peg, have you ever met Andy O'Reilly? She goes, oh, my God, that's Andy O'Reilly. And we're standing there staring at each other because all we'd ever seen each other in a magazine.
Yeah.
Right? And now we're still, 30 years later, we're still BFFs through Facebook and life and everything else.
Remember the year that was? We talking 80s or 90s?
92, 93.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, because 89 is when I came on. And then I think 92 is when Out of Control started. So it was maybe 93, 94.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Nuts. Just crazy.
Yeah, I was always tell the story too when I was at Rock 95 where the Scorpions came.
Yeah.
And we're sitting out there with the Rock 95 super band and we're playing Peter Cetera. So I mean, it just didn't quite this didn't quite work, you know.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
Some of your like you mentioned some of your people that you've met. I mean, I know you could probably go on and on, but I mean, can you mention some of the big ones that made an influence in your life?
Yeah, the first big name that I met that was just overwhelming was Gene Simmons. I couldn't talk. I was so freaked out that I was meeting Kiss. It was at the LC Walker Arena.
Yeah.
I literally tried to get a word out and nothing came out. I've gotten over that. I've done great things with Kiss over the years. For a guy that got his first Kiss record when he was 7, I'll flash forward through the Kiss experience real quick. So I get that first record when I'm 7. Meet Gene Simmons when I'm about 22. Met Kiss when I'm about 22. In LA one time, I got to do some stuff with Up Close and Personal with Kiss where it was me and the band and maybe a dozen other people. It was just a really tall, small, intimate little thing. 1996, when they put the makeup back on, we were VIP guests as the record company down there to see him at Tiger Stadium. Limos to the show, a 2-floor hotel room of my own in Detroit, which I still stay at the same hotel every time I go to Detroit now because I love the place. And then that year for Christmas, I was leaving and this box came in. It was huge. It was just giant. And I'm like, who the hell? What's this for? Who's this for? And I looked down. It was addressed to me. And there were 2 made, I was told. It was the poster art of You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best. All the way around it are baseball card size pictures of
The band.
the whole catalog
Oh, okay.
of all the Kiss albums
Oh, okay.
of all time. And it's autographed by all 4 original members of Kiss.
Wow.
So to say I haven't, and I guess too, as the reunion tours kept up, I did get to go out and introduce them at Van Andel Arena one night, which was huge. So that was, to say I haven't gotten a fan's ultimate experience out of Kiss, I can never say that because it certainly was. It was great.
It's got to be one of the biggest pluses for being in radio.
Yeah, it was great.
I did meet Kiss probably the same night that you did.
Yeah.
Because they actually were I was working at the Hilton then.
Yeah.
DJing there,
Yep.
and they came into Hilton and partied there for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. It was like I said, everything that we did as kids and up until the arena went up in Grand Rapids was either here or Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
So lots of great experiences there.
Now, any other ones that stand out?
Meeting Charlie Daniels was a big deal. I met him at Summer Celebration toward the end of the run that Summer Celebration had. Met Lemmy from Motorhead one day. That was another speechless moment. Who else? I think, meeting celebrities and all that other kind of stuff, it's cool and it's fun and it's fun to get a picture with them and to say you did that. But they're in the business.
Right.
They're just workers too. There are a few on my bucket list yet. I have yet to meet Ace Frehley from Kiss. I have yet to sit down and talk with Ace. I'd like to do that. I'd like to meet Jeff Lynne from ELO. Bad.
Yeah.
Mark Knopfler would be another one I'd like to sit and talk with a little bit.
When you meet Jeff, let me know too.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when they came to Grand Rapids, I pulled out every stop I could pull out, every favor I could call in just to get even just a snapshot.
Yeah.
And it was not going to happen. Yeah. Just wasn't going to do it.
Amazing band.
Yeah, I really love them. But, and then as time goes on too, and you get over that whole starstruck thing, you realize that they're just people. They want to give back. They want to entertain. They want to make people's lives better through what they do. And when you get over it and you realize that it's like, hey, let's do something cool together. And then you can move on to who you're really fans of. Like Ernie Harwell, I got to know.
Oh man,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Met some astronauts over the years, guys that have been to the moon. I mean, how do you beat that?
Right, and we talked about that earlier before we went on. Is that Al Warden? I got a chance to videotape him.
Yeah,
and you got a chance to.
We did a great long interview with him, and then spent some time with him off the air too.
Afterward,
yeah. Who else? I met Paul Tibbets, who flew the Enola Gay. That's a pretty historical figure. He was at Airfare here in Muskegon a few years ago. Was given presidential merit coin from the Ford family for a thing we did for the veterans home. That was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, once you get past the starstruck thing, they're people.
Yeah.
And it's awesome and it's fun. I can't play that down for a minute. But they're just folks too,
Yeah, but the memories are
the memories are amazing. And you know what? To bust out a few pictures once in a while, and hey, here I am with Great White, and here I am with Melissa Etheridge, and all that kind of stuff. That's fun too. I've got a few things that are signed. I always wanted more of the picture than something signed, just to say that I did this, because I think when I'm dead and gone, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot left to remember of me. So maybe they can look back at those pictures and say, there was somebody there. Yeah. And, look what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of sad. I got a tear in my eye already. Too bad good thing the camera's not on me.
Right.
Now, as far as how many years you're still kind of in radio in a sense. I mean, in a unique way. Do you want to go elaborate on that a little bit more, or what you do now?
Well, what we do now, I started. When I left radio, I took the job in NASCAR, which was but there you go again. When you shift gears into one world of being around superstars and all this other stuff, then you get into a bigger world of it. Yeah. In the Sprint Cup series, it was Sprint Cup at the time, and Richard Petty is your neighbor any given weekend. I mean, get over that quick, because you're going to see Richard Petty every time you turn your head. It was awesome. It was a fun year to go out and just clear your mind. I came back and I tried a couple of jobs and nothing really seemed to fit. So I bought this GoPro camera, and one of the jobs I had, I would write about their company products on their free blog program. And on Fridays, instead of writing about their garbage cans or whatever else they were selling, I would write something nice about Muskegon. It didn't work out, and I'm like, okay, what's next? Clearly, I can't be retrained. Clearly, I can't work in an office environment like a grown-up. What do I do? So I talked my wife into letting me go and buy this GoPro, 6 months, same as cash, on the Best Buy card, and I start this blog called Positively Muskegon. Wasn't even sure what direction I was going to go with it, and am I going to be funny on this thing? Am I going to, don't know. I don't even know how to edit video. I don't know I don't know anything. I'm sitting in a woman's garage in Wolf Lake one day. And if you don't know Wolf Lake, it's pretty cramped. And it's not exactly what you'd call affluent. They're good people. They really are. And they're a tight-knit neighborhood. But they're working class Muskegon. And she's going to do a thing at the VFW Hall for kids at Christmas. You can decorate a cookie. You can send a card to a soldier. You can visit Santa. You can wrap your parents' presents, that type thing. And me and her 4 girlfriends are sitting around this camera, which is this big, and she's telling me what she's doing and why it's important to her, and it all snapped. I've got this voice, I've got this platform, I've got social media now. I can take what she's doing and make her count.
Right.
Even if 10 people see it, what she did had a little bit more relevance to it. So we package it up. We put some links in there. Here's how to get to the party. Here's when it's happening. Not only, so we've given her an advertising tool. We've given her a way to take an article that's done about her and say to her friends, she can go, look what, somebody noticed what I did. And then we can start spreading this thing through social media, right? When that got to about 350,000 page views through the stories over the years, we thought we could grow. Positively Muskegon needs to stay what it is, though. And that's the little guy who does something with nothing, because there's a lot of people in Muskegon who do that. So from there, we looked into it a little bit more, and we started MuskegonChannel.com. Our slogan there is, we have a new story to tell. And that's based on the fact that for so long, Muskegon's narrative has been somebody got shot or some liquor store got robbed, by the way, over here in this town, everything's peaches and cream. Look at Muskegon, it's a dump.
Yeah.
It's not the case. Muskegon is a great, great community. And for us to never hear anything other than, or see a dirty alley, or see some, this kid got shot here, or that's just not our story. So we started to do a little bit more of that, started to tell our story a little differently. And if there's a battle to be had, let's do that, but let's do it in a way that's not finger pointing, and let's do it in a way that's not accusatory, and let's do it in a way that's not necessarily sensational or clickbait. We would just as soon grow a little slower and build a great base underneath us with what we're publishing than we would to grab those instant clicks, grab a bunch of cash real fast, and burn out over time. So, we'll take on a story that's got two sides of it, but you're going to tell me your side, and then we're going to, cut. We're going to roll over into the other guy's side of the story. He's going to tell you your side, and then the audience can pick it out. Right. That's the only difference. We don't need 30-second clips of people telling us what to do, or this is what you're supposed to think, and it's going to be different. So that grew. Then we put Muskegon Channel Radio on, which was Ski Town Stereo before, and then from there, as we grew, we used YouTube at first for our video content. Then we found this other server, which gave us access to Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So now we put all of our content into this other server, and now we've got these apps for Roku and Fire TV and all this other stuff. Now we've got a national audience, which has been a big part of what we fought against, is that, our local radio stations are great, but our two big ones, they're run as Grand Rapids radio stations. So if you want to get your message from Muskegon into Grand Rapids about something going on in Muskegon, you're paying that rate of Grand Rapids, and you're probably not going to get the value that you need, right? As an advertiser. And this is nothing against our local people that still work in radio here in town, because I love them all. But it's just not fair to us as a community to have radio stations that can't reach outside of it. So how do we get our message farther out than Coopersville? We have to use what we're allowed to use, which is the internet. And now we've got Amazon Fire, and now we've got Roku, and now we've got a cable channel, which is Channel 96. So, and we've got Roku and Fire for that too. So now we're not just limited to a cable channel with TV either. Now we can take all that content, put it on that on-demand platform, and people anywhere in the country can watch original programming coming out of Muskegon.
If they go to Roku, how would they find you?
In the channel store, just like anything else. Muskegon Channel and Channel 96 are both available for free in Roku and Amazon Fire TV.
I'll have to get that.
Please do. Yeah. And they're gorgeous. I mean, my buddy Derek that helps, he's kind of the behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
He's got everything categorized and sorted out. What's new? Here's a series. Here's the exercise show. Here's this. Here's that. I mean, it's all in 1080 HD, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And then to sit there and actually watch it behind the scenes, when we can see people popping up watching it all over the country, what county they're in, what city they're in, what state they're in, what country they're in, blows my mind. Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
So now, do you get commercial advertisers to help you back this? Or?
We do. That's my big push right now, is I need a salesperson. I need somebody that can go out and sell what we've got, because I'm so busy creating content. And honestly, I'm not that good at valuing myself, let alone everything we've built. Yeah. We've got great sponsors on our page. In fact, this is a good year for us, because on our one page on the Muskegon channel, we've had Quality Tool and Stamp on for a little over a year. He just crossed 1 million page views on his ad on our page.
There you go.
Which is great. Yeah. And then,
here's your Arbitron.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know, right? Arbitron. Yeah. That joke.
Yeah.
But, so for him to have 1 million views on his ad on the one page, that's amazing. And we keep it so affordable. I mean, Muskegon doesn't have an awful lot of money. I know that because I live here, right? Yeah. I mean, we're not destitute by any stretch of the imagination, but to ask some exorbitant fee for somebody to advertise, they just can't afford it. So we keep things really affordable. Our reach is growing day after day after day. We've got room to put more stuff on. We could do video overlays. We can do radio commercials. We can do, web static ads. We can build video content for other people. I know that's your gig, so we don't want to take anything off your plate because that's not the way we work. But
I don't like to work much these days.
Right? Who does? But, we've just developed and grown into not only the broadcast end of things, but the business-to-business end of things, too. We just finished a great series for Taste of Muskegon, highlighting all of our local chefs that they're pushing out through social media, which will, when they get done with their releasing of everything, we're going to put them on our TV channel so they can go back and watch and say, hey, look what we do here in Muskegon. This is what we do. And a part of us too, and 30 years in broadcasting, there's a gear turning or two up here. Yeah. A part of all that we've done too is to force the other media outlets to look at us differently. Quit telling our story. And I won't name names, but it was last summer. One of the TV stations from Grand Rapids was out here after somebody had gotten shot, and they didn't even have the kid's body out of the car yet, and they were on Facebook Live, going, look what happened in Muskegon. Yeah. And I know this will be seen by a wide audience, so I'll leave the language out that I called their news director with, but it was ugly. I let them have it. I said, you have to stop painting our community like this, because it's not true.
Well, the worst thing, too, I don't know how far back you go in Muskegon, but that was the one thing I always found about the Muskegon Chronicle. I mean, Muskegon Chronicle was the Muskegon paper, and it picked on Muskegon all the time. It was like one of the Muskegon's worst enemies, as far as I could see. So
we need to see ourselves better. We need outside communities to see us better. We need healthy and active media that adds to the solution, not sees how much it can take away and give as little back as it can. Right. And that's my goal. I want, and I know we're small, and I know that we're not seen by as many people as you would get on a tower or have any money to market things and get billboards up to generate awareness and all that other kind of stuff. And I know since all this started in 2015 that it's to most people, I think they think it's gone faster than I do, but the reality of it is that it's grown fast, but from the guy behind the camera, it feels like a long road to hoe.
Oh yeah.
And it's worth it. It is. If I died tomorrow, I mean, my name's not going to be written on any buildings. They're not going to rename any streets after me. But and you've heard the story, I'm sure. I came here with a death wish and a couch. I had an alcohol problem. I drank about 2 gallons of whiskey a week when I first moved here. This town knew to love me before I knew how to love myself. Yeah. And I owe it to leave something better than I found it. And that's what I'm willing to do on my end of things. And am I getting rich off it? No. Am I okay? I mean, clearly I'm not starving to death. I mean, you take one look down and you can see I ain't going hungry. But we all have something to give back. And if I can make that, or at least start that change of look better at yourself, see better in yourself, from that woman in Wolf Lake who wanted to do a Christmas thing for kids, to the president of the community foundation, to the guy that runs Mercy Health, these are people that we've picked up all through this process. I mean, we start off with a GoPro that's this big and a microphone that's that big. Now we're doing live television with the real power people in Muskegon once a month. And this is how we got to grow this. And it just takes time and patience, and it's what I have to give back.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to say about the business as far as to anybody out there that's watching right now? Media is a business. It's an art, and it's also an engine. It needs to be an elemental part of all of the community.
It needs to be engaged. It needs to be active. It needs to be a part of your life. This idea of everything just getting fed in because if it works in Lincoln, Nebraska, it's going to work in Muskegon. I don't subscribe to that for a second.
Yeah.
I really don't. We're unique. We're our own town. We have a true need to get the word out. We have the true. You can listen to the big box stores ads on the radio all day long. And you know what? I shop at a big box store. I'll go to Home Depot. I'll get what I have to have. But when those ads come in on a national buy for pennies on the dollar, and the guy at the Ace Hardware in Whitehall can't afford to buy the advertising to compete against that, now you got a problem.
Yeah.
That guy at the Ace Hardware needs to have that voice too, because after a while, you're going to forget he's there. It all needs to play into who we are and what we are. It needs to be local. It doesn't even have to be perfect. And if you want to start something, I'll support you. I've got other people that have started these things up, bloggers and Facebook Live people and other authors of websites and things. I know of 3 other Positively's that have started around the country. I know of 2 more that are coming in Michigan right now that are being developed. And this is where these all start, these local, small, organic, homegrown media things.
Yeah.
And if you're patient and your heart's in the right spot and you do it because it needs to be done, it will work out. And it's important that it has an active role in your community and not just shoves it down your throat.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.